Hi, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. So I was flipping through this little magazine that has books that are coming out soon, and one of the books was called No One Left to Kill. And no, it's not. That's not what it's called. That's what it looks like, though. It's called None Left to Kill. And I was just kind of reading it, and it says, in None Left to Kill, spins a fictional account of one of the lesser-known tragedies in American history, the 1857 Meadows Massacre. What? What? I was like, I'm not familiar with this. Through the perspective of three women, Ely, I think that's the name, immerses readers in the American frontier. Well, I had to figure out what that's all about. So that's what we're going to talk about. It is called what did I just say? Mountain Meadows Massacre. The Mountain Meadows Massacre. Now, I just kind of Googled it and looked on Wikipedia. And then I also watched a video by a Latter-day Saints. I guess he's like a preacher, maybe. The only thing I didn't like about his video is it looked like it used some AI graphics and pictures and stuff, which were kind of annoying. But it was a pretty good video, and his site is Scripture Central. If you want to look that up, he has a very good video about it. But I just thought I would share with you what I found, and it's kind of interesting. So what was happening is we are back in time in 1857. And what has been happening is that out in Utah, here is the great Salt Lake City, the Great Salt Lake and Salt Lake City. Now the Mormons, the Latter-day Saints, now they want to like to be called the Latter-day Saints or LDS. But back then they were called Mormons. So I'll probably just refer to them as Mormons because it's like back in time. So they were over here in the East, and they were being harassed and stuff for their religion. So they moved out here to Utah, and Utah was not yet a state. And they're kind of setting up shop here in Salt Lake City area. Well, then President Buchanan, right here, our 15th president, he becomes president in 1857, so right around this time. And he says, hey, I'm going to send about 2,000 of my military out there to, I think, instate a governor and start making Utah, a state, basically, to take military, to have it under federal government. And at that time, the leader of the Mormon church was Brigham Young, and he was very much against having the U.S. military coming into his area. And so they call it the Utah War. There are other names for it, but I saw that. I thought, okay, that works. And so he starts preaching in his sermons, along with other things he preached about. He would preach about outsiders and a lot of very them versus us rhetoric, including like war hysteria, and basically saying they're all coming to get us and they're all bad and crazy and we can't allow it and we need to do whatever it takes to protect ourselves. Hold on, let me take a sip. That's good. And so tensions are rising. Tensions are building. Well, around this time, leaving out of Arkansas, a group called the Fancher, I think it's Fancher, Fancher, wagon train, starts heading across the country to go to California. And well, I guess like 137 altogether heading out there. So, these guys are, have the horse and the wagons. It's rough. There are no roads. And by the way, if you're wondering why, like, how does something like this happen? And like, I'm an American and I don't know about it. This country is huge. We've got a lot of stuff that's going on in this country. And people around Utah probably know all about it. I just don't know about it because I'm not from this area. But I have been to Zion multiple times, and I've never heard of it. We'll find out. It's kind of near there. But anyway, so they leave from Arkansas, and they are heading across the country, and they have to go around the Rocky Mountains, and they come back down through like Salt Lake City area, and then they're coming down this way, and they're out here, like here's Zion National Park, and they're kind of right in this area. And they're on their way still to California. So there are some Mormon militiamen, and they include a guy named Isaac Haight, I think is how you say his name, Haighd. I've just read it. And John D. Lee. Now Isaac starts to plan an attack because he's been, worked up by the rhetoric about how bad these people are because they're non-Mormon. Excuse me. And he's like, we got to attack. So that's what they do. So he gets together a group of Native Americans. What is their tribe? The Southern American Paiute. I think that's how you say it, Native American tribe. And he wants to make it look like the Indians attacked these people. So the militia guys get dressed up in sort of Native American gear for the attack. So it looks like Native Americans are doing this. And whether there was communication with Brigham Young about this attack, I don't know. I've seen some things saying both ways, but it doesn't appear so. It just seems like Brigham Young may have gotten the fervor about, how bad outsiders were going, but that he wasn't directly involved with this. Okay, that's what it seems like from letters written. But so these guys, this militia group, along with some of the Paiute, I'm not sure, tribe. Now, by the way, it's like, why would the Native Americans want to have a part of this? Well, when Brigham Young went out there, they were nice to the Native Americans because Brigham Young said that the Indians were like offspring of the Israelites. And so he had a Mormon Indian alliance where it was like, we're going to take care of you. We're going to help you out. And they told them that if they helped with this attack, they could have the cattle and the wagons and, whatever they needed. And the story at first within the Mormon church was that the Native Americans did this attack. But it pretty quickly became more apparent that maybe they weren't, if they were involved, it wasn't very much. It was really the militia. And they were dressed like Indians. Okay. That's what I think from reading up on it. So they start attacking the wagon train. And at first, the people on the wagon trains were fighting back. And then they were kind of hiding out. I don't have a good idea of how this all took, but you're kind of in a mountain area, So they're in this meadow. And so they're sort of hiding out in an area where they can have some shelter. And at first they were fighting back. But it goes on for 5 days, and the militia's kind of got them surrounded, I think, or at least has the exit surrounded so they can't get out. And some of the militiamen got it in their heads that that some of the wagon train people had seen that had seen their skin color, had seen they weren't really Native Americans, that they were just dressed up as. And that kind of worried them because they wanted to blame it on the Indians. And I know I'm using these terms, LDS and Mormon and Indian name. You guys know what I mean. Don't at me. You know what I mean. So once they thought they were kind of found out, they were like, look, we got to go in there and kill them because they know who we are. So what they did was on day 5, now the wagon train has a lot of people, and they've already traveled all this way, which takes a long time and a lot of supplies and stuff. So they're running a little low on supply. So they want to get this over with and get on to California. So the militiamen hold up white flags and they say, hey, we have a truce and we are going to escort you past these Indians and get you out to California and get you on your way. And so because they were running low on food and water, and they really didn't have a reason to not trust them, because they did kind of think, we assumed they thought it was Native Americans they were being attacked by. So they come out, and the militia guys say, all right, all you men walk with us, and we will show you, how we're going to get out of here. So they walk all the men from the party about a mile away from the encampment. So this is about 1 mile. And once they're there, they just shoot them. They just surround them and slaughter them. So all the men are killed about a mile away. And then they walk back into camp and they come here and they kill all the women and children except for the ones that are about 6 years or younger, because they figure they won't be able to tell anybody. So the little ones, which there were about 17 of them, they spared. But everybody else, 120 people, were murdered. What? And I've never even heard of this. And the little children, they grabbed them up and gave them to Mormon families to raise. And then all of the cattle and the wagons and all of the belongings of the people, they auctioned off. And I guess kept the money. I don't know what they did. So then, over the next 10 years, it gets a little bit buried. You know why? You know what happens after 1857? Because of the Civil War. So now the Civil War is going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. Nobody's really thinking about what's happening out in the Wild, Wild West, because it was the Wild, Wild West. I mean, not nobody. Some people are. But for at least 10 years, the Mormon church, including Brigham Young, from what I understand, told the story that it was Native Americans who murdered everybody. And that's what happened. But it came out that no, that's not what happened. And the church excommunicated people they knew were involved, like John D. Lee, and started to really say, hey, John D. Lee's our guy. He did this. He was a lone wolf. He's the murderer. So they end up arresting him. I think they tried him 2 different times. But the last time they tried him, they said, the Mormon church had nothing to do with this. This was you. This was on you. This was your doing. So John D. Lee, and he did do it like he did, was found guilty by a jury that was all Mormon people. just sort of a note that I found interesting. And they had him, from what I read, go back to the site of the murders. And then they set up a coffin. This is kind of wild. And they had him sit there on the coffin. And he said, please don't mess up my body, just go for the heart. And they honored that, and they shot him in the heart, and he kind of like fell into the coffin. That's what I read. I don't know. I don't know all these things are true or if they're tales that have been told through time. Who knows? And they buried him there at the site of the murders. But all the other people, the Baker, Fancher, people who were killed there, as far as I know, they left the bodies, or maybe buried the bodies right in the spot where they fell. Now, eventually, all the children, the little children who were in the Mormon families, the U.S. government went in and got them out and sent them back to their real families in Arkansas or wherever they were at that time. But I think that took a little while. So that's the story of the, and I will say, like the guy I listened to that I mentioned earlier, who's an LDS member, I think he's I don't know what they call, like a preacher in the LDS church, I don't know what they call it. But, they have taken responsibility now. They have put up memorials and signage and, take full responsibility and discuss how the sort of rhetoric that makes people hate each other, even if they're not the real reason, the real target of your hate, like they just said these people are bad and they were just people trying to get across the country. So it's like that kind of rhetoric is what makes some people go crazy. And I think we're seeing that sometimes right now, not sometimes, a lot. People just saying kind of awful things, and I would say in comments, but also in real life. So I don't know, it's just kind of an interesting tale. So that is the story of the Mountain Meadow Massacre. And I'm no expert, I'm no history person or anything. And you can easily look this up. There's a lot to read. You can look at maps from the time. So if you've never heard of it, I definitely recommend looking it up. It's very interesting, I thought. And oddly, it happened on September 11th of 1857. September 11th. Oof, what a day. And so it was really the mass murder of 120 innocent people. And then 17 children were spared. Very young children, babies. Most of them kind of babies. And I think everybody agrees that it mostly came from hysteria about a possible war with, the government or whatever. A lot of extremist talk may have led to people getting ideas. That seems to be the thing. So yeah, look it up. It's interesting. All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I hope that was interesting and not too dark. I don't know, for some reason, historical things like that, like if this were a new thing, I'd be like, oh, I'm not talking about that. But historical, it's like, oh, well, we need to know the history so we can learn from it, Because if you try to avoid history, you'll never learn. All right, I'll talk to you soon. I had some notes on here. It's my note paper. Let's see if I forgot anything. Brigham Young's sermons fueled flames. Avoid extremism. Civil War. After. Oh, wait. 140. Oh, but 17. Yeah, so maybe